What's going on, everyone? Disney Plus is basically here. It's right on top of us. You can't stop it, so you might as well join it. There are plenty of things to be excited about. Obviously, The Mandalorian is going to be very good. It's going to be exciting to see a live-action Star Wars series. Star Wars is my favorite. Other people are excited about different things. The entirety of The Simpsons is going to be on there. Lots of people are looking forward to that. All the old classic Disney movies, and even some older Disney shows that, cartoons that came out in the 90s or 80s even. But one thing that seems to be overlooked, at least as far as I can tell, is that there will be Disney Channel original movies on Disney Plus as well. Now, anyone who has been a child in the last few decades has probably seen their fair share of Disney Channel original movies, but they don't always circle back around. They don't always re-show them after a certain amount of time, and that's fair because some of them don't really hold up. And I'm sure that they won't hold up when I rewatch them on Disney Plus, but it'll be fun to watch nonetheless. So I wanted to highlight the top 10 Disney Channel original movies I'm excited to see on Disney Plus. Now, the first one that I wanted to talk about in the number 10 slot is Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire. I was talking with a friend one time, and we were talking about different Disney Channel movies, and they brought up one that they couldn't remember. I have a very good memory, so I remember a lot of things that other people don't. But they were talking about, wasn't there one where they had their mom go on a date with a vampire or something? And I said, oh, you mean Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire? So, naming isn't necessarily the best on that one. Could have had a better title, maybe. But the movie itself was very good, as far as I remember anyway. Now, Disney Channel, for some reason, has a plethora of Halloween-based movies. Even more so than Christmas or any other holiday. And I guess it's so they can fill the entire month with nothing but those. But I remember this one as being genuinely creepy because it was very realistic in that it was just our world and normal things happening, except there was like one vampire dude. And he was extra powerful, and that made it scary. Because it wasn't like Halloween Town, where, there's a skeleton taxi driver or whatever, and people on unicycles, and it's all fun and happy. It was our world, but there was one supernatural element, and so that made it really creepy to me. And of course, Mr. Sheffield from The Nanny, being the vampire, was, he was very good in the role. And Aunt Zelda? Hilda? One of them. One of the aunts from Sabrina. I don't remember which one is named which one, but, and then Lizzie McGuire's dad was a vampire hunter in the movie. So there are lots of people to look at in that movie, and the little things, the little parts of vampire lore that they included, like, I remember vividly him being out on the front porch and just standing there, and then they're like, well, come on in. And then he's like, okay, thank you. And then there's this whole thing where he, like, crosses the threshold because they had invited him in. It was very creepy the way they did it. So I'll be looking forward to seeing that movie and revisiting it, and hopefully it holds up as well as I think it does. Next, in the number 9 slot, I wanted to talk about a cornerstone of Disney Channel movies, Zenon. Specifically, the sequel. Now that's future talk for the second one. I don't recall whether they set a specific year in any of these movies for when Zenon takes place, but I can only imagine that it's pretty soon, and we're getting dangerously close to it not happening. But it just said the 21st century, so, maybe it could be further down the line. We still got time. But I picked the sequel over the original because, number one, the characters were established, the whole world was established, her on her space station and that sort of thing. Her uncle and her, well, it wasn't her uncle, but then he got together with her aunt, and so then that relationship grew, the station commander. The whole thing with Protozoa from the first movie, he did that concert in space, which was really cool, but then they were using that as a message, and it's like, maybe there's aliens? What is this? And they have to figure out that whole mystery. That was really cool. Nebula is different in this movie because Raven-Symoné had gotten, even more popular from the first movie, but not so popular that they had to include her in the third one, and she was only on, like, a green screen and never actually talked to anyone else. It was really kind of dumb the way they included her in the third one, just because, oh, it's Raven, we gotta have her. Well, no, I liked what they did with Nebula better in this one because she was an actual character in the film. But I won't spoil any more, and I don't know that I remember too much more about it, but I will be very excited to see what Zenon the sequel has in store. I'll watch the first one for context, I guess, and then we'll see about the third one. That's when they went to the moon or something on the third one, and the guy had like a clear shirt. I don't know. But Zenon will be fun to revisit, and we'll see what future technologies they are close to and what things are still far off for us. Now, in the number 8 slot, we have a more recent movie in Teen Beach Movie. Now, I would just like to say that I really thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and it didn't come out till I was in college, but that didn't stop me from appreciating what it had to give. This movie is different from some of the other musicals, like, say, High School Musical or Camp Rock, because this movie knows exactly what it is. It's not trying at all to take itself too seriously. It is very self-aware. The movie starts with people talking about West Side Story, which is a West Side Story adaptation, which of course is basically just Romeo and Juliet. So they're already acknowledging this is like third-tier ripoff territory. But then they go into that movie, and so there are actual reasons for the singing, because they're inside a movie musical. But there's very, very genuine humor in this movie. It is very funny, and doesn't take itself too seriously, but there are moments of genuine pathos. So, I really enjoyed this movie. I didn't get to see the sequel. I will probably catch up on that as well, but the movie was funny, it was a fun ride, and the songs were actually pretty good for the most part, as far as I remember. But it'll be fun to revisit this one. Now, the movie in the number 7 spot I want to talk about is well ahead of its time, and that is Up, Up, and Away. This is a movie about superheroes. Well before the MCU, even before The Dark Knight, before Batman Begins even. This came out before Spider-Man came into theaters. But there is a Spider-Man reference in the movie, from cartoons and comics and other things. But even more than that, this movie is about a family of superheroes, and the main kid doesn't have any powers. It's like Sky High, except his powers never kick in. He's just a regular kid, and he has to figure out how he fits into this superhero family. This movie was just very well done, ahead of its time, forward-thinking. If you like superheroes, go back and watch this movie. It's fun and interesting to watch, and I think you'll enjoy it as much as I do. The number 6 spot I want to talk about is the movie Quints. Now, it's been a minute since I've seen this movie, but as far as I remember, it was pretty good. The girl in the lead role is the same one from the Halloween Town movies, and in this, she's basically Deadpool. And by that, I mean she breaks the fourth wall constantly, giving you her innermost thoughts, but also different cutaways and her imagination running wild, well before any of this was taking place in the mainstream. Sort of like how in Mean Girls, outrageous things will happen and then it cuts back to reality. That happens here in this movie, but well before then. And as far as I remember, her friends are basically Sam and Freddy from iCarly. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I'll have to rewatch it, but hopefully I like it as much as I think I do. Now, in the number 5 spot, I wanted to talk about Pixel Perfect. This was a Disney Channel movie that starred Ricky Ullman, or Ricky Raviv if you want to not use his stage name, from Phil of the Future fame. I went with this one over his co-stars movie, Now You See It, the one with all the magic and stuff, because even though that movie was entertaining, Pixel Perfect is likewise entertaining, but also has some more thought-provoking ideas behind it. You see, he creates a hologram to join the band that he and his friends have. And this hologram is designed to sing and dance and do other things, but then she starts to wonder, is she real? What makes her alive? What is sentience? All these questions coming from a children's movie. And then there's also the tension between him and his girl best friend who likes him, but he might like the hologram and that sort of thing. And the ending of the movie is very poignant. If you get to that point, I won't spoil it for you, but it's a battle between humanity and our own creations. Not like they're actually fighting, but just like, what does it mean to be human? And that's a very interesting question that a lot of movies try and tackle, but for some reason they decided to do it in this Disney Channel movie as well. So I'll be glad to revisit it. Now, the number 4 spot is Descendants. And this is the first and only movie on this list to be here because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any of the Descendants movies, but there's at least 3 of them, which is a good sign that it's very popular. And Camp Rock couldn't even get a 3rd one, although I imagine that had more to do with the busy schedules of the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato after the movies came out. But these people in these movies are not unbusy either. Dove Cameron's in it, and I enjoyed her stint on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and she does lots of other things. China Anne McClain is in the 2nd one, I believe, and maybe the 3rd one. I don't know. I haven't seen them. Cameron Boyce, unfortunately, is no longer with us. He passed away, but I will be interested to see his work in these films. The basic premise is also extremely enticing, in that it's the offspring of different Disney villains. I mentioned Sky High earlier, and it's basically like that mixed with Marvel's Runaways. The reason that I liked Once Upon a Time so much, before it fell off the rails in the later seasons, is that it was a different spin on classic stories that we already knew. And that's what Descendants is. It seems to be very popular. I've seen lots of merchandising for it. There's other animated shorts and things. So I'll be glad to catch up on this, since it passed me by. The movie in the number 3 spot is, kind of fittingly, The 13th Year. This is a movie about a boy who lives by the lake, and eventually he finds out that he's a mermaid. Or merman, I guess, if you want to go that route. But it's got Quints in it from The Sandbox, I believe. I'm pretty sure. If not, it's a very similar looking kid. But Joey from Full House is definitely in it. He's the dad. And there's also the girl from the Jersey that's kind of his girlfriend. I don't know. I just remember this being a very interesting movie. You know, I wasn't really ever like a mermaid buff or anything, but it was still just really interesting to watch. Basically, if you liked Aquaman, you should watch The 13th Year. It's a good Disney Channel movie. The number 2 spot, I would have to say, undoubtedly goes to The Luck of the Irish. This was one of my favorite Disney Channel movies back in the day. It's the same kid from Smart House, but I like this movie just a little bit better. And that is maybe mostly because it deals with, you know, Irish culture and that sort of thing that I was very fascinated by, and kind of still am. Very similar to the last entry, the kid finds out that he's a leprechaun, or at least has that in his lineage. And when he gives away his family's lucky coin, or it gets stolen, then he starts to revert into a leprechaun state. There's a great Star Trek joke in there about Vulcans with the pointy ears and everything, and Lassie from Psych is the main villain in this movie. So if you want to see him with an Irish accent, then go and check this out, because it's pretty entertaining. But the number 1 spot would absolutely have to go to The Phantom of the Megaplex. This was by far my favorite Disney Channel movie growing up. But since it was a Halloween-based movie, they didn't show it all that much as some of these others. Basically, the premise is, you know, Phantom of the Opera, but instead, it's a movie theater. And there's a guy running around, and all of the different movies that are in the theater are creating different perils that they have to overcome. There was one, I think, called Cyclone Summer, where there was a giant industrial fan down at the bottom, and it was basically creating a tornado inside. And then they have to figure out who the identity of the Phantom is, and it's a mystery, and they have to go through the different theaters and solve it. And there's a whole thing where there's like a prop Excalibur in the stone, and it's really great. Mickey Rooney's in it as just an old guy that loves movies, and so it was very fitting for him to be in that movie, and also for anyone that does genuinely love movies to see this movie about being in a movie theater. It was just really great fun, great action, great suspense, and everything that you could want in a kids' movie made for television, but also somehow transcends that. So for my money, Phantom of the Megaplex is one of, if not the, best Disney Channel original movie out there, and I am beyond excited that I get to watch it again on Disney+. So, which Disney Channel original movies are you going to watch on Disney+? Are you even going to get Disney+, or are you going to wait and see if it's worth it for some other things? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and of course, thanks for watching.